Welcome to the Avert Your Eyes podcast, where we talk with some of the most creative people within North Texas and beyond. I'm your host, Michael Gibson Jr. I hope you're doing well. If you were looking for me at the Arlington Film Festival a couple weeks ago, I had a bit of a health scare prior to it, and I was rushed to the ER with really high blood pressure. Thankfully, I'm doing much better now. I've had to be on the sidelines for a bit, resting and focusing on my health, which has been rather frustrating because I've missed quite a few things. But thankfully, I'm still alive and able to do the things that I love, including this show and talking with you. As you're listening to this, Halloween is right around the corner, so I thought I would present a very special Halloween episode of the podcast. In the spirit of the season, we are giving away a signed copy of the latest film in the Puppet Master series, entitled Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, that has been autographed by our next guest. Visit avertyoureyespod.com or the show notes for episode 35 to see how to enter. In 2006, I graduated from the University of North Texas, where I studied radio, television, and film, and I also minored in English. But while I was there that final semester, I produced a little organized crime film called RITCHIE'S CREW. I'll have a link in the show notes for the episode on our website, but as anyone can attest, when a group comes together to make a film, there is a magic that happens as the group works to bring a story from the page to the screen. Through the years, I've stayed in touch with several of the people involved with that film, but this guy I am honored to truly call a friend. This episode's guest is actor Stephen Brodie. He was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and has appeared in numerous films and television shows, and has been fortunate enough to work with many talented people. He can be seen in Disney's The Lone Ranger, acting alongside Johnny Depp and William Fichtner, in the latest reboot of the Puppet Master series, Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, as well as the horror thriller The RAKE, and the upcoming horror drama The Last Possession. He was also once beaten up by Gary Coleman. We discuss his roles within those aforementioned films, his thoughts on the horror genre, working with Johnny Depp, and so much more on episode 35 of the Avert Your Eyes podcast. Consider yourself warned. Most recently, you're in The Littlest Reich, the most recent installment of the Puppet Master series, which I ended up watching a bunch of those when I was growing up. What was your favorite part about being a part of that film?
Oh boy, the special effects that I got to do was really cool. What do I say? Do I say stuff that gives things away, or am I supposed to give things away?
You probably want to not give too much away, because we want to get people to...
Right. I mean, I guess it's, everybody dies in a movie like that, so it's not like if you say, like, I die, it's like, of course, everybody dies, But, no, the special effects were really cool on that. Like, that was a big part, because there was so much, so many deaths and so many crazy things. And I spent... I don't know, 4 hours getting prosthetics and makeup and stuff for a team of like 5 people, all around me doing stuff for hours and hours. And that was really cool because it looked really scary, really very realistic. So I enjoyed that. That was, people on set were great. Everybody was really cool to work with. And it was just a lot of fun. The directors came in from Sweden, that directed the film. There was like these 3 guys, like they direct and the DP and they all work together on everything, and they like co-direct and it's kind of an interesting. You don't normally see that, you just have like one director or whatever. And they were all kind of the 3 of them running around doing their thing and talking to each other, a little bit of English and some other, it's like it was fun. The least fun part was taking all that makeup and stuff off.
How long was that process?
Oh, like 3 weeks. Seriously, it was like, I thought I was going to have to shave my hair because there was glue and stuff stuck, all through my scalp and all my hair. And I worked on it every single day with, remover and all this stuff. And they kind of abandoned me there. After I was done, because the day was done, everybody was leaving, and it's just me and the makeup, couple of them, they were dropping off one at a time as they were working on me. Like, okay, someone would disappear, now there's only 3 guys, and then someone would disappear, there's only 2. And trying to, rub all that stuff out, the glue and everything. And it was terrible. Pretty terrible. And eventually they okay, well, I got to get out of here. Here's a bottle of remover. Have fun. And like, okay. So then they left. And it was just me left in the building. We shot in the Ambassador Hotel, the old Ambassador in Dallas, and it was an awesome location for the film. It's so cool. So they leave, and our cars were parked, and the parking lot is gated. Our cars are all parked in this gated lot, and there's an attendant out there, whatever. Anyway, so they leave, and I'm like, okay, cool. I gotta go. I still have to go change out of my wardrobe. I just gotta go get my clothes back on and get my keys and all that stuff out of my room they had me in. And so I go to do that. When I come back, the hotel is completely empty. It's completely dark, empty. Everybody's gone, and I'm like, so it's kind of creepy walking around through this empty, abandoned seeming hotel in the middle of the night. And so I go to leave. And I come out finally, and I come out the front door, and it's one of those, as soon as it closes, it locks. You have to have a code to get back in, which I don't know. Nobody's there. So I come out the door, and I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. There's nobody there. And the door closes, and I'm headed to the parking garage, or the parking lot, and there's a guy, I see him ahead, he locking the gate and going, his car's on the other side. Basically, they're locking. Everybody's gone. He's leaving. Right. And I'm like, hey, I'm yelling. I'm running out. Wait. Because, if I don't get my car, it's going to be locked in there overnight. Just moments away. And he was walking away, and he heard, I was yelling at him. He heard me and came back, what? And he's like, dude, you almost didn't make it, a few seconds later. And I would have been on the street with my car locked. Anyway. But yeah, so over the next 3 weeks, I was trying to get makeup and glue and stuff out of my hair and off my skin, and I lost a lot of hair with it. But
I'm glad to see it's all grown back.
It's mostly grown back. There's a few spots we won't talk about.
Now, I know this isn't your first foray into horror. You also had another film that you worked on right before this called RAKE. That came out. Mm-hmm. You want to tell people about that one?
Yeah, the RAKE, and that was a really cool project. It's a horror film, kind of horror thriller drama, if you will. The guy who wrote and directed, co-writer and directed the film, Tony Wash. He had a film, I guess a year before, maybe called The Muck. It was a short film that played at South by, and I think won Best Horror Short or something. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, got some attention from some other people, and then anyway, they were putting this film, The Rake, together. It's based on a creepypasta about the rake. So they wrote a script, put it together. I came on board that project because the DP from that film I worked on another film with, and it's like a series of events. I worked on a film in Dallas, and the director of that actually came in town from Arkansas, worked on it, and then he liked what I did on that. He recommended me to another director on another film that was in Arkansas, and so then I ended up going and working on that. And the DP from that liked me, introduced me to Tony, and then I read for him, and he liked me, and so then I got to work with them again on The Rake. And they got some, they got some attention based on the muck and the story and the script and stuff. So an LA production team came on board also, threw a little more money at it, and brought in some other stars to play some of the other roles. And then I spent a month out in Chicago filming that, and those guys are really cool. They're like super horror nerds, if you will. They love horror, and they're really into like practical effects and all that stuff. So it was done all old school, if you will. And so they created the rake creature, which was really, really cool. Also, another one that I got to do a lot of neat special effects and sit. There was a day that I spent 12, 14 hours not able to see. Because when I first get there, they were like, go to makeup, and they put prosthetics on me, covering my eyes. So I spent all day not being able to see anything, and so it was funny because while they're waiting for me, like, sit here, they're like leading me around in this rickety old house in some little Chicago suburb, and then we're in the basement. And these little tiny little steep stairs. Anyway, so they sit me down, and like I'm sitting there, just like I can't see anything, don't know what's going on. Find out later, people were coming by and taking selfies with me. I had no idea. So I saw these pictures. Like, when did we take that picture? Oh no, it was just people like taking selfies. And I had to eat. People had to cut my food, and like I'm like feeling my food in my mouth because it was a long day, but it was so cool. I guess I really like working with the special effects. I'm fairly patient, so I can sit there and for hours and have them work on me, and it's cool, it looks really neat. But anyway, cool film. It was a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that they do a RAKE 2 one of these days, and they bring me back.
Very cool. Now I know with all the prosthetics and makeup, like, you weren't claustrophobic at all, being not able to.
No, I'm not at all. It's kind of like I said, it was kind of neat experience to just not be able to see, not really know what's going on, and you really start focusing on your hearing, and you can hear people coming, or you hear things happening, and I ended up like telling them, like, they were like here trying to help me around, and I was like, no, I want to do it on my own. So I'm literally walking up down those steep stairs and stuff on my own. Like, I'm feeling everywhere. I'm just, I don't know. It's kind of like a game for me, I guess. Just that was just neat to do something like that rather than, just be led everywhere. It was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of cool.
Well, I was able to pick up a copy of Puppet Master. I got probably about a third of the way through before the time that we're doing this interview. They were out of RAKE. They didn't have a copy of that, but
I have one. I have one for you if you want.
Oh, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd also seen another one that you had done before I went to a screening of that, which was Blood Sombrero.
Oh, boy.
Which was just a whole... why don't you go ahead and talk about that one?
Oh, Blood Sombrero. The first question I usually get on that is, what is a Blood Sombrero? Like, I don't know. It's a big Mexican hat. I don't know. I don't know. That's been... I'm trying to remember when we did that. It was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
We did that one. That was... I was at Texas Frightmare Weekend and ran into a friend of mine, Billy Blair, and this guy Abel, who wrote and directed, or co-wrote and co-directed, I guess, Blood Sombrero. So I ran into them at Texas Frightmare, and they were like, "Oh, dude, glad we ran into you. We're gonna talk to you about something." I was like, "Really? What's that?" So we pitched that project to me, and it sounded really over the top, weird, crazy, and a lot of fun. So anyway, we had a couple of meetings and ended up getting a part of a script. And it was like maybe the first 20 pages or something, and it was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. So I signed on to do that one. I don't even know how to describe that film. It's just like it is craziness. There's like ninja women and like witches and bounty hunters and I don't even know, demons, Satan, cults. I don't know. It was all, there's like so much stuff wrapped up into that. It's just like, and it's just constant action, I guess,
Yeah, like that, the witch scene or the seance scene that happened, the special effects in that were like amazing.
That is, I feel like that's the coolest looking part of the whole film, really. Right. Yeah, that was done really well. Yeah, that was neat. That's one I've got no special effects in that one. I got no prosthetics. I got nothing. I played a detective in that one,
right? And
one half of a duo of fussy detectives that bicker with each other the whole time. That was actually a lot of fun. It was like back and forth the whole time talking.
Banter,
yeah, the banter, and we had some interesting situations. I get to play with puppets, and and there was a lot of blood, and somehow we end up, in our underwear, tied up in the trunk of a car. That's all I'm going to say about that.
It's always a good situation to find yourself end up.
Yeah. Actually, it wasn't part of the film. I'm just saying that that happened. Just don't tell anybody, okay?
I forgot to put it in my notes, but what was the one that you did where you were the father with the kids? Like, I don't want to give that too much of that one away.
Right. That's The Last Possession.
The Last Possession.
And
that was such a great movie. The kids alone, where y'all found those kids were amazing actors.
Yeah, they did a really great job. That we the kids in that the little girl Laurel was my co-star in that. Cassie Shea Watson teaches voice and acting and all stuff. Her Laurel was one of her students. So
of course.
So she knew Laurel, and Laurel was tiny but crazy talented. Great singer and really creative, and she makes her own little videos and movies and all this stuff. So that was her first film, and she did a really great job. And so she brought her to the project, and she actually did a session with the director and everything, and he was like, We gotta cast. She's the first. She probably was the first one cast, really. And then Sawyer Bell was the little boy, played my son. And I'm trying to remember where we knew him from something else as well. We've seen him in something else, so we kind of brought him in and kind of helped with some of the casting on that project as well. And he's crazy talented as well, and like a good kid. So we've kind of kept in touch with him over the years or whatever, and he's doing a lot of good things. But yeah, that was a great project. Dan Riddle, who directed the film, he's actually from Dallas. He went to UNT, but he's an editor by trade and a director, and he's worked on like My Name Is Earl, and I think he worked on the Scream TV series a little bit, and I'm trying to remember now what other things. One with a baby. Gosh, I don't remember. But anyway, he's worked on a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, and a super great guy. And he came. He got the script from a writer associate of his, and came to Texas to shoot it. We were all cast in it, and we spent a month living in Midlothian, Texas, on a farm, not a farm, but like this little ranch, I guess. So there was like on this property we had like the picture house, and there was like a bunkhouse, and there was other two little smaller, like all right there. So cast and crew lived on set for a month, right there all together, which was really, really neat. Because usually you're in a hotel somewhere, you gotta get driven to set and this and that. It was so cool to have everybody right there together. That was probably, aside, my experience on Lone Ranger was pretty amazing. I spent 9 days in Colorado. It was beautiful. That's a completely different thing. That was amazing. But aside from that aspect of that, this was probably the best experience I've had on set as far as being around, being with the other cast and the crew, because we all became so close, and we got to just bond with everybody. The crew. A lot of times you got actors and you got crew, and they're in two separate little groups, and they don't necessarily interact. Crews like don't talk to the actors, and crews like, those actors suck. They're all into themselves. And then the actors are like, go get me a water. But no, it's like it was cool because we got to spend time with them after we'd wrap for the day, and then we're out barbecuing and drinking beer and stuff. Cast crew all intermingled, super cool. Just that whole experience was great. But anyway, so it's also the film's also a kind of horror thriller drama with some other things mixed in a little bit. Alex Simon was our DP. Really great. I loved working with literally everybody on that set. He did a great job. Jeremy was the gaffer on that, and they worked really well together. They also came out from LA to do the project, and it's just beautifully shot. You know, the acting, like you said, the kids were great. You know, it's kind of hit and miss with kids sometimes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that can unfortunately make or break the movie, but the kids in that film really carried the film and helped make it what it was. Yeah, they did. They were really great. It was good casting, and you know, editing. I mean, come back to that. Dan, you know, being directing, and also being an editor by trade as well. You know, he kind of already had he was editing it in his mind as he goes along. You know, so right. and then he was able to you know, he works magic anyway, so I'm sure that it was just put together really well. But yeah, basically the story is, you know, family. I play Kent, who's the father of this family and he loses his job. You know, his money's tight, so he's got to go back to his childhood home where his father has lived. And his father, you know, is committed suicide. And so now he has to move his family back into his father's home. And he's not happy about it because he feels like a failure. He's lost his job. He's having to do this. He hated not a good relationship with the father. Right. And so anyway, he's got to move them back into this house and start over and kind of keep things together. And they move in and strange things begin to happen. He feels like maybe his father is, you know, they feel like maybe the father is haunting them, and then come to find out that it may be something worse than that. But yeah, really, really cool film, and it's actually we're actually working right now on working with a distributor on that, so hopefully it's going to be released here soon. Very cool. Well, hopefully it does get picked up and people check that one out, because that was such a great story, great film all around. And speaking of, like, you know, I've seen, you know, growing up, I've seen a lot of horror films. I grew up watching, you know, like Jason and Freddy Krueger and stuff, and stuff usually doesn't, like, I'm a tough nut to crack with, like, jump scares and stuff, but that film had one of the greatest jump scares in it that actually, like, got me. Like, I was probably, in the screening of it, I was probably the loudest person screaming over everybody.
I heard you. Because they were in the middle of it. I heard, oh! Oh! I think that was Michael. That's funny.
But did you end up growing up watching a lot of horror, and, you know, what were some of your favorites?
I never was, like, I guess I was never exposed directly to lots of horror, you know, like some of the people I know, they're just like, oh, I was, you know, from a kid, I was always, you know, I watched lots of different things, but I remember the earliest thing that I remember the horror film that I saw was I remember my grandfather, my dad's dad, lived in this little town called Winkleman, Arizona. And I remember, you know, I would go there for the summers and go visit my dad, and, you know, and I lived there as a child for, you know, off and on a couple of times. Yeah. And I remember going to my grandfather's had his room was like in the back of the house. It was it was like this little trailer on this weird, like, on the edge of a cliff, basically. And in the back of the house was his room. And I remember we would always go, you know, always pile into bed and watch movies in this little tiny TV in his back room. And I remember we watched, like, Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, things like that. But I remember we watched this horror film, and it was called oh my gosh, see, I thought about it just now that it was just with me. Okay, so it was, oh my gosh, it was like Valentine's Day. Bloody Valentine or something. Oh my gosh, I can't remember now. I had the name of it. I remember piling into my grandfather's, you know, room at the back of at the back of the house, and it was a horror film on, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was there was like it had to do with Valentine's Day, and there was I just remember like people would get Valentine's, you know, those candy boxes, they're shaped like a heart, and you pull the top off and there's all these little candies in there. There was some killer who was killing people, and then someone would get the Valentine's, and they're like, oh, Valentine's, and open it up, and there's like a bloody heart in there, and they're like, oh God, and then people were getting killed, and somehow their hearts are being sent in Valentine's. That's all I remember about, to be honest, is people getting killed and their hearts being sent in Valentine's. It was so weird, but for some reason it has stuck with me as like funny, but you know, at the time I was like, oh, it's scary, but I'm sure if I watched it now, it would be like completely ridiculous.
Right.
You know,
you'd be like, I'm scared of this?
Why was I scared? But that's what's funny. I mean, I think that's funny about horror films, because it's hard for films to be actually scary, especially, you know, as an adult. You know, you're like, I've seen it, like you were saying earlier about jump scares and stuff, like, you know, it's happened. You've already experienced that. It's hard to, you know. So I mean, it's great when something does scare you. It's like, that's the best feeling. Like, yes, you know. But you can still enjoy it even regardless. You know.
Right.
You know, again, for special effects and you know, unique way of telling the story in the situations. But that was like my earliest horror film memory, if you will. Other than that, I was a fan of the Puppet Master, the early ones. I remember.
Yes.
I remember watching those. I was on a road trip. I used to just get in my car and start driving, just by myself. Just start driving and end up someplace in Mexico, wherever. And I was just kind of on walkabout, if you will, and ended up at this little small town in the middle of nowhere, and this little cheesy motel, and I was in my room getting ready, and I was like, I'm gonna go out and try to find something to eat or some trouble to get into, see what's going on in this little town. And
Stephen Brodie, a troublemaker?
No. Yeah. And so I put the TV, turn the TV on or whatever, and I was getting ready to do, and then his movie came on, and it was Puppet Master, the very first one, and I started watching it, and I ended up watching the whole thing, and ended up being like it was like a Puppet Master marathon. So I ended up watching the first 3 Puppet Masters back to back to back, and I didn't go anywhere. I didn't eat. I just sat in my room, and I ended up just climbing in bed and watching the first 3 Puppet Masters. Like, that was my introduction to Puppet Master. I was like, these are cool, you know. And so it was neat to have that experience, and then all these years later to get the opportunity to audition for and be part of the new Puppet Master reboot.
So this is a reboot.
It's a reboot. It's still gonna live, kind of alongside Charles Band's original Puppet Master series. He's still got. I mean, I think they've got maybe a dozen of those out now, and he's gonna continue making his. And this is going to be. It's just kind of exists alongside of it. So Cinestate, who made the film, produced the film, which is a Dallas-based production company here. They are. I hear they've said that they're planning to make another one, and it may be a prequel to this one. And I at the couple of screenings that I've been to, and who knows, it could be a joke, but a couple of screenings that I've been to, they've said that the tentative title for the new one is Arians Ahoy. Who knows? Okay. So
we'll see where
that goes. But but I do know that they are planning to make another film. So I'm excited to see what they do with that.
Which I was interested to see where this one sort of fit into that universe, because I remember I don't remember how many of the ones that I had seen growing up. But I remember there was the one, again, I'm only about a third of the way through it as we were recording, but there was, I remember this one, it was like a female doll, and she would regurgitate these
leech woman,
something like that. And I was like, I don't know if she's in this one, if it's come to that point, but some of the newer ones that they had been showing in this movie so far, I've been, like the.
There are some new ones in this one that are interesting. There's the happy amphibian. It's like this funny frog with these crazy smile. Anyway, it's so funny. Yeah, there's definitely some new puppets. They use the classic ones are Bagblade and Torch and Pinhead.
Yeah, Pinhead.
I always loved Pinhead. because he's the only one that seemed sweet. In some of the movies, he always seemed like he was like, oh, like he had, like he had compassion, even though he's just like this tiny little pinhead with these giant hands. He would like crush your skull or whatever. But I don't know. And I don't remember which movie, but I just remember because at least one of the movies, I just remember him like turning his little tiny little head to the side and being like, oh, like, like. But I always liked him. But yeah, so the classics, the main, I guess, classics are back. There's so many different puppets, they're not all in there, but there's some new ones introduced.
Yeah, like the drone, that's the word I'm looking for.
The drone, yeah.
Yeah,
oh
I was
gosh.
like, that's interesting.
I don't know I can't remember where you are in the where a third of the film, way through the film ends up, but he has an interesting kill in the film, so if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, then I guess you're not quite there, and you soon will.
I've gotten to the point. I've seen where he got to. There's the bartender, and he's trying to shield the kid, and then there's that kill. But I'm past that. I'm at the point where they realize that they're after everybody, what it is,
right.
And they're trying to stop them and catch one to see how it works.
Oh, okay.
And they, I've gotten to the one where they did the reveal of the namesake of the film. That one's been revealed.
Gotcha.
And I don't want to give too much away.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
Just like, oh, wow, that reversal, like, when you see it, like, that turnabout, I was like, wow, they really pushed the envelope here. But...
they definitely did that in a few of the scenes, for sure. Some of the kills are just like, the audience were like, oh, I did have somebody I talked to said they said that they walked out of the film because of one of the scenes. They were like, oh, that was too much. It was the
that was I was like, I don't know why that's. I'm glad that my girlfriend didn't watch it because of that scene in particular. It was just like, I was like, wow, she probably would have walked out. Like, she's very squeamish to begin with about stuff like that. But she, we started watching like Game of Thrones, and at first she was like, I really don't, I'm skittish. I don't like a lot of blood and gore, but like she was cheering on a bunch
Kill
of stuff.
Him! Cut his head off!
And I'm just like, especially when, spoilers, there's the fight between the mountain and the...
Oh, yeah.
When that fight happens, like she was like in there. I was like, who are you? Who is this person? But speaking of like walking out and being like intense, like I remember seeing the first Hostel film in theaters. That's, oh my god, his name was right there and it escapes me. Was that Robert? No, that was Eli Roth. Directed that one, and like that film was so intense. Like I had to stop watching it. As a viewer, it's very hard as a filmmaker and somebody that's done stuff in the business to actually, turn your brain off and actually enjoy stuff. But I had to like stop trying. Not that I didn't enjoy the film, but like I had to like stop watching it as a viewer and start watching scenes as a producer and be like, okay, how did he do that? Because that movie was so intense with some of the stuff that they pulled off.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome when when they're doing something like they're pushing the envelope, like you said, or doing something that's like how is that going on? You know, that looks too real, or
Yeah.
was that editing, or is that, you know, it's pretty crazy what, you know, like what can be done, and it's cool to watch that.
Yeah. Now, I did an interview with you before, and you brought up the Lone Ranger, but we haven't talked about it in the podcast. So why don't you talk about like your involvement with the film and how you became a part of that? And...
Oh boy. I have a very, very short memory, so I don't remember anything past 2 weeks. So I don't remember any of that. No, I'm just kidding. That was, man, the Lone Ranger. That was just such a really cool experience because, well, first of all, as a kid, I used to watch westerns and stuff with my dad, my grandfather, and so I was a fan of, you know, I was always watching like the Rifleman and the Lone Ranger, you know, in reruns. I wasn't there for the original Lone Ranger. Jeez. I used to watch those and then, you know, enjoyed those. Always just something about the Lone. I mean, my whole life I've always like, just when I'm just sitting around, just you know, just got a moment to myself. Whatever. I would always find myself tapping. You know, I always drum on things. You know, as we do drum on, tap on stuff. You know, I would always drum the William Tell Overture, or you know, and I'd be like, I would just always found myself always doing that. Like maybe from watching it as a kid, you know, and being exposed to, then that tune is always stuck in my head. So every time I hear it, it's just so, I don't know, it just gets you excited, you know? And so I kind of always have that kind of connection as well. And then I was in Louisiana. I was in Shreveport shooting, I think, a commercial. and I get a call from my agent in Austin, and he was like, hey, you know, you got an audition, you know, for whatever day, and, you know, sending the information. And I was like, okay. I was like, what's it for? It's a film? Please tell me it's a film. And he's like, yeah, it's a film. It's a Disney film called, you know, The Lone Ranger. And I was like, really? Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. You know, cool. Yeah, I'll be back, you know, tomorrow or whatever, and I'll you know, be ready. Sure. So I get an audition. Casting director had come from New Mexico to Dallas to do a session. And I had just worked on, not too long before that, I had worked on a short film that was a Western. And so I made a lot of contacts and a lot of friends on that project that were you know, reenactors, you know, things like that. So I called up one of my buddies there and was like, Lynn, hey, I got this big audition coming in. It's a big project. Can you outfit me? Can you hook me up? I want, you know, like some authentic, you know, Western gear. And he was like, yeah, man, come on by. So I went to his house and dug through his closet. I mean, he was like, he outfitted me. I had like full on period stuff. And you don't normally do that for an audition. You know, you go in, you kind of, you know, represent the role or kind of suggest the role.
Right.
But I was like, I have access to this. It is a Western. Screw it. You know, so I came in wearing the whole get up, if you will. And so I came in and did this and did my session. And at first, you know, I read for, you know, one role, and then the casting director was like, hey, you know, that was great. Would you mind sticking around? And I would like for you to read a second role. And I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. You always like that because that means, you know, you don't suck. And so they'd like to see you do something else. And so then, you know, so I stuck around. Sure. So I go back with some sides for another role, and I'm kind of looking over those. And, you know, short time later, I go in and do that. And she's like, I am so sorry to do this to you. That was great. I actually have another role. Would you like to, you know, I'd like for you to read a third one. Do you have time? And I'm like, I'm yours all day. I will be here all day. Anything you need. So I was like, sure. So then I read for a third role. And so I got to do like good guy, bad guy, just, you know, a bunch of different stuff. And I, you know, so I left feeling, because I felt good about all this, you know, all the stuff that I read for. And so I left, and I was like really excited about it. Like, cool, that was fun. And I, you know, when I audition for something, I go, I have fun, enjoy it. It's great. I got to act. I got to do what I love to do. And I leave the room and don't think about it again. You know, it's because, you know, the reality is you're gonna book very small percentage of what you audition for.
Right.
And you know, so I don't worry about it after that. It's like, okay, had fun, done it, boom, move on. But for some reason, this one stuck with me. I don't know why, because they normally don't, you know. For some reason, this one stuck with me. And a few days, it was only like 2 or 3 days after my audition, I was at a screening for some other project, and was, you know, hanging out. I was talking to another actor friend. And he was like, well, so what have you been doing? Any big auditions? And I told him, I was like, I just auditioned for Lone Ranger. It was great. Man, it went really well. I just, you know, excited about this one, you know. Hopefully, you know, got my fingers crossed. Maybe I'll get a call back, hopefully. And he goes, oh, you didn't hear, did you? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, they pulled the plug on that. And I was like, what? What do you mean? He goes, yeah, the Disney said the budget was too high, and they canceled the production. They ended it. And I was like, well, shit. And so I was like, I go home and I look it up, like, yep, Disney canceled, and I was like, oh no. So I was like, whatever. Anyway, it was like, you know, just kind of let it go. Like 6 weeks later, 6 weeks maybe, I get a phone call from my agent, like, hey, got a call back for you for, you know, Lone Ranger. They really love what you did, and they, you know, he goes, I think they're trying to find a place for you. They want, like, you to read a couple more roles. Can you put it on tape and send it to them ASAP? And I was like, well, of course, I'm doing it right now. So anyway, so I taped a couple more, two more roles for that one, sent them off, heard nothing for like another 6 weeks. And again, I was like, for some reason, it just, I was, you know, like, okay, well, I probably, you know, I didn't get it. It's fine, moving on, but it still just kind of stuck with me. So anyway, so that I you know, fast forward, then all of a sudden I get the call from the agent, like, hey, and I answer the phone, like, hey, you know, and you know, Jason, he was like, he goes, Stephen Brodie, you're going to New Mexico. And I was like, what? What does that mean? And he was like, dude, you just got the call. You know, you booked Lone Ranger. You're headed to New Mexico. I'll send the details as soon as I get them. I was like, wow, cool. And then it was still like another 3 months before I went and did the part. It was like a long process, the longest I've ever had, you know. But and I ended up not shooting in New Mexico. I flew to New Mexico, and then they drove me into Colorado, Creed, Colorado, tiny little town in the mountains, south. You know, it's like in a national forest area. Beautiful little town, and I flew in there, spent 9 days, just having the time of my life. You know, meeting people, and you know, and working on the film, and it was just super, super cool. The town, tiny little town, like I said, there was a point, the town had, like, there was like 210 people or something like that, 220 people, something like that lives in that town year round. It's a big tourist spot, so the summer, and you know, people come in, but only a couple hundred people live there year round. And I was told by, you know, second AD, first AD, one of the people had said that, like, at some particular point there, production had like 450 people. Wow. For production alone there in that little town, so and surrounding more than double the you know, the population of the town. And it was really cool. And I mean, they had so much. They you know, they took over everything, all the little hotels, and it's a little small, you know, and branched out, and people were having to, you know, bus people in and out for, you know, because it's obviously a huge undertaking, and it was really cool. And the town was great. All the people, you know, we got to go see some local theater, which was really good, and you know, they treated us so well, you know. It was a great experience.
And you got to work opposite both Johnny and
William Fichtner.
William Fichtner, who played the bad guy. Mm-hmm. What were those experiences like?
That was cool. It was interesting. So working with Johnny, it was I don't know. It was interesting to me that, like, at one point before we were even shooting, they had where, you know, where the talent is sitting, and it was cold outside, so we had these, you know, had our little director's chairs all, you know, and they had heaters and stuff all around, so we were like cold but toasty at the same time, and we're right there, kind of right behind Video Village, you know, in our little area, and at one point Johnny was sitting, before I had actually met him on the set, before we did our scene or whatever, and at one point he was sitting in one of the chairs. And I'm sitting in a chair, you know, a little bit away, and he was, you know, right there. There was a huge crowd of crew people, basically, right behind, because there's a barrier between us and the rest of the world, I guess. And there was a huge crowd of like crew people. These are people that a lot of them have been working with him for weeks on this project, and I mean, they're actually, some of them are crew,
Right. And
they were like all just kind of standing around, just like watching him. It's kind of weird. It's like you see this guy, but it was just wherever he was, there was just this huge just crowd following him, and so you got these people just kind of standing there, just just looking at him and talking, and he's just sitting in a chair, but it's kind of strange to me. I don't know, maybe they were looking at me. Maybe that's it. No, maybe they're looking at me. No, not. But and every day when we would go to set, the a little van would come and pick us up and bring us to set, and as we're driving, they put us up in this really nice lodge, or some of us, and they we had this little windy road, and it comes around, and they had this whole like miles of this road. They had put up a gate and a fence and everything. You couldn't get in because that's where all the set and everything was back there. And as we're coming around that corner to that thing, there was like crowds of people. Every day there's a crowd of people out there waiting to, and they're like waving. They got posters of Johnny from like Pirates of the Caribbean and they're like things, DVD. They're out there like, waving and stuff, like a group, just this crowd of people out there. And, and we're coming in, they're just looking at it, it's like, oh, but they're cheering, waving, as we're driving by like very slowly because there's a crowd, we're like reaching out the window, like high five people. Hey, what's up? People are, it was crazy. But so yeah, so we have, sitting there, we're behind the set, and there's always people, around, constantly watching him, And then when we get to actual set, in my scene, I pull, I point my rifle at him and threaten him and whatever. And it's an authentic rifle, but it's blocked so it can't fire anymore.
Right.
But it is, metal and wood and everything. And so my rifle was checked, by me, by the arms master, by the AD, like all the stuff. And then Johnny had we're shooting in this tunnel, and along the one wall of the tunnel are like 3 giant bodyguard guys. They're like out of the shot, but they're just all arms folded, like just watching. So those guys checked the gun. Everybody has checked the gun. It's been checked by 10 different people right in front of everybody right there. And they were, and it's like, okay, cool. So we're doing the scene. We did a couple of, takes with that rifle. And then at some point, we did a couple of takes, and then the first AD comes over, and he goes, hey, I'm going to swap you, whatever. And I was like, well, okay, sure. He takes away my rifle, and he gives me a rubber one, replica. And I was like, cool. I mean, it still had pretty much the same way. It was amazing, but it was actually rubber. And he was like, here he goes. Johnny's bodyguards are not liking this. Like, it has never left their sight. It's been checked by them. It's right there. Like, but they're like, no, they're still don't want it. Like, so we swapped it out and did the rest of the takes with a rubber version. You can't tell the difference, but it was like, it is just intense. But anyway, when I walked out to do that scene, I walk into the tunnel, and Gore Verbinski is the director. He comes over, and he goes, Stephen, and waves me over, and he's like Johnny, wave Johnny over. He's sitting over by his bodyguard, and so the 3 of us come together in front of the train where we're about to do the scene, so he puts his arms out, and we do a little huddle. So the 3 of us are in this little huddle, arms around each other, and he's like, okay. He goes, Johnny, Stephen, Johnny. And we're like, hey, what's up? How's it going? And he's like, okay. He goes, okay, here's what we do. So we're talking about the scene and what's going to happen and, whatever. And he, and he gets to the point, he goes, okay. And he goes, and Stephen is going to, at this point, it's going to happen. He's going to point the rifle at you. You're going to, you're going to be coming down. He's just explaining the setup. And Johnny was like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, groovy, man. I was just like, groovy. He was just, I don't know. He was just like, just totally so chill. Yeah. And lay back and just, I guess, kind of like what I would expect, just like, whatever, man, it's just cool. Really nice. And so like, we did our little huddle and then, break. And then, I did the scene and stuff. And it was really cool. It was really fun. And, I didn't get pictures or any of that kind of stuff on set at all. There was like a strict no camera rule, like obviously. Nothing. I did, make friends with this guy though that was part of the production team, and so I have a bunch of pictures. I got a bunch of pictures. I probably shouldn't say that. I don't know. A person with no name that I don't know this person's name, but no. But I got a lot of cool pictures, photos. You know, I haven't shared them. I have them, but behind the scenes and a lot of stuff that he forwarded me. So I got I got a lot of cool stuff, but I couldn't take any of my own photos there from set, which is too bad. But anyway, it was really cool. And then I had the other scene I had with William Fichtner was he plays Cavendish, which is the bad guy in the film, and and that was cool because when we were getting ready to do the scene, I had a little more time with him,
right?
Because when we get the scene, and Gore came over and like, hey guys, let's talk about the scene. So we're talking about the scene, and he goes back to do directing stuff, and so Bill and I were like sitting there just talking about the scene, like, okay, well, so we're just like, all right, so I'm probably gonna do this, and you're gonna do this, and the full scene that we did was the train is pulling into the tunnel, and we both step off the train, jump off the train, a moving train, hit the ground, trotting up to a mine shaft, and then everybody, if anybody's seen the movie, they've probably seen the movie by now, so probably. But anyway, so if you're gonna see it, they've probably seen it. Hopefully, more people will see it now.
Spoilers ahead.
Yeah, spoilers ahead, but not much. But I mean, hey, trains and tunnels and Lone Ranger and yeah. So anyway, but we have a line. So I'm kind of like one of his, I don't know, just henchmen, if you will, I guess, why I'm, associated with the bad guy, but I'm just doing my job, So anyway, so we trot up to this mine shaft and have a couple lines and some stuff happens. Anyway, and, so he ends up throwing this dynamite. There's about to be an explosion, and he steps, he does it, and he goes, cool, and he says his line, he steps off, and, back on the train. The train is still going along us this whole time, and I stayed there for a second, and then I'm like, oh shit, I just threw dynamite in there, so I'm like, oop, and then I jumped on the train too, like, and we're out. In editing, I mean, it's a long film as it was, so, we got the beginning and ending of that got cut a little bit, see us riding all the way down the train and out on the train, but it was really fun because as a kid watching westerns and things like that, growing up with that, it's like you always see people, riding the horse along the train and they jump catch the train and jump, or running alongside and jumping and pulling themselves up, and it's like, or I don't know, it's just cool. Like as a kid, like that would be so cool, and to get to do that was really neat. I mean, I know, on the set, but still, I mean, the train is, and we're jumping off the train and jumping and climbing on the train, and it was so neat to be able to have that experience. But Bill was really, really, really nice, and he was really cool. And we were sitting there talking like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to march up here, and then he was like, he goes, just so you know, he's just letting you know that if you get too close to me, I might shove you back. Because we're talking about characters, like, right. He doesn't want someone right up. He's a bad guy. He doesn't want someone right up. And I was like, of course, yeah, do, whatever, and so, I don't know, it was just neat to sit there and, and have a conversation, talk about, okay, if you come here and I'm there, what do you think? Oh, well, I'll probably do this, and have that, collaboration, as film is, was nice. And then we did a couple of takes. And Gore came over and was like, hey, you guys, come here. He waved us over. And so we came over to Video Village, and he showed us playback on the monitor. And he was like, this is beautiful. And he goes, I can use this. He said, but he showed the framing, and he was like, if you guys are one step over this way, then I get this perfect, beautiful, three shot of Bill, you, Stephen, and the candle that he's anyway. And he's like, they would be like, boom, boom, boom. Right now, you guys are a little stacked, but it's just, it's just like, right. Okay, cool. So we did the, so we got a little direction. We got to see the playback, which was really neat. Sit there, and then we go back and we just minor adjustment, and that's it. So it's just fun. I mean, this is stuff as an actor we do every day on set. It's not like groundbreaking stuff, I guess. But it's neat to be able to do it at that level with these people, and it's the same whether you're in the big thing, you're in an indie film, or you're on a huge Disney film. It's the same process. It's the same things you have to do. It's the same things, and it's making a film, and it's really cool.
All right. Now, as we're starting to wind down on time, I'm going to hit you with some harder stuff.
Oh, gosh.
What has acting taught you through the years?
Oh, gosh. I thought you want to wind this down, or you want a long story. No.
This is whatever. If you want to give more time, this...
Well, what is it taught? Well, I mean, for me, acting started out as like therapy. Growing up, I was really shy, and on a lot of things that I wanted to try, that I was afraid to, because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to, feel foolish or look stupid, or just not be good at something.
Right.
So I didn't try. So, I got into acting late compared to a lot of people, I guess. I didn't, I was afraid. Didn't do theater as a kid. Didn't try that stuff, but always was interested in it. Always thought about it. Thought it would be neat. Wish I could do that kind of thing. So I started late. I was, I was a grown ass man. Can I cuss on this? I'm probably too late to ask you that.
Well, it's whatever you're comfortable with.
Cool.
If you want me to cut it out, if you want me to cut it out or bleep it out,
I don't care. I should have asked that to begin with. But anyway, no, I was an adult, and so it just, I don't know, just thinking about my life and things that I wanted to do and stuff. It just basically, and a whole bunch of other stuff rolled into. Not going to go into a long story, but the point is, I just started thinking like, I maybe just need to. I have a problem with fear in general, and putting yourself out there, being okay to make mistakes, being that sort of thing. And so it just one day it just hit me. It was like, what can I do? What do I do about that? How do you fix that? What do you do? And and it's like, well, you have to address it. You have to put yourself out there and do that, and find out that you're going to be okay on the other side. You're going to that you're not dead. That that you're embarrassed or you're this, but it goes away and you're fine.
Right.
And so anyway, so it just occurred to me like, well, acting, something I was always interested in, but something that I was afraid to try. And what else can you do where you're constantly putting yourself out there? You're constantly being judged. You're constantly failing. You're constantly doing ridiculous things that put you outside your comfort zone. And being rejected. All of those things. What else can you do? You're gonna get run the gamut of of all these terrible things that I was afraid of, and so I was like, okay, that feels like a starting point at least, and so I just jumped into an acting class, an intro class, and jumped in and just fell in love with it, and I've been busy steadily since then, and so it has taught me that things are tough and things are, you're going to fail and you're going to feel like an idiot, but when it's over, those feelings will go away and you're left with the accomplishments, and you're left with the positive aspects of the experience. You book something great and you're like, that was fun. I got to be a skydiver. I got to jump out of a plane, or I got to do this, or, just whatever, things that, that you don't get to do sometimes in normal life, and that's really rewarding, and that's helped me become a better person, and I'm still afraid of things, but not as much.
What is Stephen Brodie afraid of?
Oh God, I'm afraid of interviews and podcasts. So this is helping me. Thank you for the therapy today.
Well, I'm so glad to be your first.
That is it's something I'm afraid of. Put myself out there sometimes as me. That's still a thing. Karaoke scares the crap out of me.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
I don't have a go-to because I'm scared of it. I have to develop that.
But if you were put on the spot right now, like what would you belt out?
I wouldn't. I'd probably run out the door screaming. I don't know because I don't know what I feel like I can't sing, and I've been told like, you can sing. I there's been a couple times that I've gotten drunk enough to be pushed on karaoke, and then like someone videotaping, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't even remember that. But so that has happened. But I'm, I'm not gonna go do it right now, I'm
gonna have to go track that video down.
Oh my gosh, a buddy of mine, I was like, you suck. But I've done that song. 500 Miles. It's the Proclaimers, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so I've done that one before. Embarrassing as crap, but maybe because, you can throw in a, fake Irish accent or Scottish accent or whatever and be like, oh, and have fun with it, but not like I'm really trying to sing, So if I suck, it's okay, but anyway, it is a fun song too, but yeah.
What are some of the pitfalls that people can fall into as far as acting goes?
Pitfalls. Well, I mean, I guess depending on what direction you're talking about going in that. I mean, obviously, as in people starting acting, let's say, there's all kinds of scams and things out there that actors, who don't know or whatever can, pay for certain things and don't, and get taken advantage of. There's a lot of that. Obviously, as you can be put in situations where you do something where you feel like you have to do something that's outside your comfort zone, something you don't want to do. I mean, I'd say women more specifically get probably put in that kind of position, whereas nudity or sex or something, and so there's a lot of stuff like that's out there that can be scary and, can put you in a bad situation. There's that kind of stuff. There's also, as an actor, depending on why you're doing it, can expose you to different issues. Some people, like I said, for me it was therapy and it's fun, but doing it starting as an adult, I probably have a different perspective than someone who started younger and maybe got into it. I don't know, but I'm doing this because I enjoy it and because it's a part of me now, and I'm able to express myself and again keep working on my fear and that sort of thing. I like being able to make money at it for sure, but I'm not trying to be famous. That's not my motivation,
Which I think anything that you do with fame is the end all be all for somebody. Then whatever it is, being, singing, acting, what have you, it's going to be fleeting and unfulfilling for them.
Right. Yeah, because the truth is, such a small percentage of people are going to be successful to that level, and so you're, if that's your dream and it's going to be pretty, soul crushing, and that's why a lot of people do this for a couple years and then they haven't made it and they give up. They're not doing it for the right reason,
right.
They're doing it because they want to get rich or be famous. I've talked to people who are like, well, I'm going to do acting because I need a good way to, make some good money, and just like, well, you're in the wrong damn business,
right?
Because you're going to go months without booking anything, and you're going to make shit, So so if I think that's a pitfall, people see, and especially in this day and age, people see people on YouTube and whatever, Instagram, whatever, and they're like, oh, I'm going to be famous too, and everybody thinks they're going to be famous and rich and everything. Is it just going to be the it person? This is not likely to happen. It's just not. And so, if that's your motivation, then you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to be unhappy, and you're going to be constantly chasing someone who's bigger and more famous and better than you, and that's no way to live life.
Right.
So that's obviously, that's something. It's like you make sure you're doing it for the right reasons.
How, sort of piggyback off of that, how do you define success?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Being able to pay the rent. Shit.
The mouse lets you work with that mouse?
No, really. Can I put my address here? Because someone send me some money. I need to pay rent.
You could buy a lottery ticket. It's up to over almost.
Did no one win the other night?
Nobody won.
Oh my gosh! Because I was talking to my mother, and she was like, "It's like to $1 billion, almost $1 billion." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "We bought tickets. We're gonna
Yes.
check the numbers." And she's like, "We have to wait till tomorrow till the paper comes out." I'm like, "Go to the website. What's wrong with you?" She didn't know.
She's
She's
set
gonna
your
wait
ways.
till the next day to go to check the paper.
Which is so crazy because, like, if somebody, like, the last time that I looked, I think it was at 1.6, so it'll probably be closer to 2. So when taxes
Oh my gosh.
come through, somebody's going to walk away a solid billionaire. And it's going to be just like, that's going to be life changing. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
And it just, and as soon as it gets up like that, then everybody's like, "Oh, because now I'm gonna go buy a ticket."
Right.
So then then the people who don't normally buy tickets, so it grows exponentially.
Yeah.
When it gets, it's like, oh, it's only, that cracks me up. It's only at $1 million. No thanks. Like, you only want to. Oh, it's just $1 million. I'm not buying a ticket. It's not, whatever.
But a billion.
$1 billion. Okay, I'll spend $2. Whatever. Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, so I guess that would be that's how success would be winning the lottery. I feel successful now. I'm accomplished.
What would be your first extravagant thing that you would get if you?
Oh my gosh,
something like that.
I was, I wouldn't buy anything extravagant, really. I mean, I would, I was just talking with a friend just today about that. Actually, like if I had millions of dollars or whatever, because people are like, I have a guy, this guy named Sonny who works on my car. Awesome guy. I love him to death, and he takes really good care of me. But he's always like, he plays the lottery. When I win the lottery, I'm buying you a Lamborghini or Ferrari. He was like, I'm gonna buy you like some big expensive ass car, and I'm like, I don't want that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, if I had millions of dollars right now, I would not go buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. That doesn't mean anything to me. And I think that may have also come from, getting into this late.
Yeah.
Maybe my values are already set, so even if I was rich and famous, I would probably buy a house, but it wouldn't be, $10 million mansion or something, and I would buy a new car because mine's falling apart. Sorry, Sonny, you're doing your best, I know, but you can only do so much with what you have to work with. But I'd buy a new car, but it wouldn't be anything,
extravagant, ridiculous.
No, yeah. I would, obviously do the same. They'd do the things that everybody would do when they, pay off your debts, pay off your family's debt.
Right.
I'd do all that kind of stuff. That would be the first thing that I would do.
Yeah. I'd probably, debt, definitely all the student loans, and buy a house, and I had a CRV. I have a Pilot now, a Honda Pilot, and I love the CRV, but like I'm not really into flashy cars and stuff. I have guys at work that that drive BMWs and stuff, and they're all about flash and stuff. I'm like, that's never really been me. But second to last question, how do you define happiness?
That's a tough one. Can be a tough one, I guess. I think for me, happiness is not chasing after something you can't have. Not wanting something that that's not possible. Being happy, being content with who you are, what you have, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Like I think people are in life that people are unhappy a lot because of the things they don't have. Oh, I don't have a new phone. I don't have a new car. I don't have a BMW. I don't have these things, and so I'm not really happy because they're making those things. It's about things.
Yeah.
And status symbols or what society tells you need or you should have by this point. You're X number of years old. You should have a house and a wife and 2 kids and a dog. It's like, I think being content with what you have, wherever you are in your life, is happiness. To me, I don't need extravagant things. I don't need. That's not what I get. Receiving and giving love and to your friends, family, whatever, and being content with who you are and what you have. To me, that's happiness.
Awesome. And then lastly, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, geez. What would I tell my younger self? Boy, if I could go back there. Don't do it. No, don't do it again. That would be the second follow-up one. No, I mean, if I could tell, I think this goes back to, me and fear and all this. If I could talk to my younger self, I would say, get out there and do those things because it's going to be good. It's going to be better. And, I would have pushed myself to step outside my comfort zone much earlier if I could. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Stephen Brodie, thank you very much for sitting down with me again.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
But for first time for a podcast.
First podcast. Yep. Thank you.
That's the podcast. Thanks again to Stephen Brodie for sitting down with me. Don't forget to enter for your chance to win a copy of Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, autographed by Stephen Brodie by visiting www.avertyoureyespod.com. You can follow Stephen Brodie on Facebook at Stephen Brodie Official, on Twitter at the letter I, Stephen Brodie, or visit his website, stephenbrodie.com, for more information. Keep up with the Avert Your Eyes podcast, or check out past episodes by visiting our website, avertyoureyespod.com. There you'll find everything you need to subscribe to the podcast, with links to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Twitter, Facebook, and so much more. And don't forget to leave a comment or review. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Michael Gibson Jr., and until next time on the Avert Your Eyes podcast, consider yourself warned.